Your mom is the family failure, my brother told my children across my parents' dinner table. Then he looked at my 10-year-old daughter and added, she'll never amount to anything. Lily's fork hit her plate. Her face crumpled. I pulled her against me while everyone else stared at their dessert. I didn't argue. I didn't reveal what I knew. Monday morning, my brother's business partner called him with a message the majority shareholder wanted an emergency meeting. Ryan walked in expecting another rescue. He saw me sitting at the head of the table and still had no idea what his signature had already given me. Before we begin, hit like and tell me where you're listening from and whether you've ever faced something like this. Sunday dinner at my parents' house was never optional. My mother, Patricia, called it tradition, but it felt more like attendance was proof of loyalty. By 5:30, the house smelled like rosemary, roasted beef, and the apple pie she always bought from the same grocery store bakery and passed off as homemade. The dining room looked untouched by real life. White plates, polished silverware, family photos lined across the sideboard in almost every picture. Ryan stood near the center. I was usually somewhere near the edge. I arrived with Lily and Noah on time. Lily carried a school folder against her chest. Noah dragged one shoelace behind him until I knelt in the hallway and tied it. Don't scuff the floor, Mom said before she even hugged us. Then she glanced at the clock. Ryan was late again. Nobody touched the food. Dad sat at the head of the table, folding and unfolding his napkin. Mom kept opening the oven, checking a plate she had covered with foil just for Ryan. 3 weeks earlier, she had complained for 10 minutes because I arrived 8 minutes late after picking Noah up from soccer practice, but Ryan could keep 6 people waiting, and somehow that was different. When he finally walked in, he brought cold air, expensive cologne, and the sound of car keys tossed onto the entry table. Sorry, he said, not sounding sorry at all. Investor call. Mom smiled like the president had arrived. Ryan kissed her cheek, shook Dad's hand, and dropped into the chair across from me. His suit probably cost more than my monthly rent. He made sure everyone noticed the watch on his wrist before reaching for the potatoes. How's the little office job? Zoe, he asked. I'm a senior financial analyst. Right, spreadsheets. He said it with a grin, like my work was coloring inside boxes. I felt Lily looking at me, waiting to see if I would react. I didn't. Ryan moved on to my car, then my rental house, then the fact that I still packed my kids' lunches instead of paying for the school meal plan. You've always been good at keeping things small, he said. Mom gave a laugh. Dad stared at his plate, and I sat there, listening to my brother brag about deals I understood better than he did, while nobody at that table knew I had already read the numbers behind his success. Then Lily put down her fork. Uncle Ryan, she asked softly, why are you always mean to my mom for 1 second? Nobody moved. The clock over Mom's china cabinet ticked so loudly it felt like another person at the table. Ryan leaned back in his chair and looked at Lily as if she had asked something childish. I'm not being mean, he said. I'm being honest. My stomach tightened. He turned his attention back to me, but he kept speaking to my daughter. Your mom is the family failure. Lily's eyes widened. Mom reached for the serving spoon. Ryan. That's enough. But her voice was soft, careful, the same voice she used when she wanted a problem to disappear without anyone actually dealing with it. Ryan ignored her. She'll never amount to anything, he said. Not like your grandfather. Not like me. The fork slipped from Lily's fingers and struck her plate. The sound was sharp enough to make Noah jump. Ryan kept going. He brought up the community college I attended before transferring, the years it took me to build my career, my rental house, my old sedan. Then he mentioned my divorce. Some people just can't hold a life together, he said. Dad finally looked up. Ryan, that was all. One word, no anger, no defense, just a warning that came 10 years too late. Mom glanced toward the dessert. Can we please not ruin the evening? Not ruin the evening. My daughter was crying, and somehow the real danger was an uncomfortable dinner. Lily pressed both hands against her face. Her shoulders shook. I moved my chair closer and pulled her against me. Look at me, I whispered. She did. Barely. Nothing he says changes who I am, and nothing anyone says gets to decide who you become. Across the table, Ryan exhaled like I was being dramatic. Noah stared at me with frightened eyes. "Are we poor?" he asked. "Are we going to lose our house?" That question cut deeper than anything Ryan had said. I stood. "We're leaving." Mom followed us into the hallway while I helped Noah with his coat. "Zoe, don't turn this into a family war," she whispered. I looked at her. He told my children their mother was worthless. He was showing off. You know how he is. "Yes," I said. "I do." Outside, the cold car seat pressed through my coat. For several blocks, only Lily's quiet crying filled the car. Then she asked, "What if Uncle Ryan is right? What if I grow up and everyone is disappointed in me too?" My hands tightened around the steering wheel. That was the moment something inside me changed. My silence had never protected my children. It had only taught Ryan that he could define me in front of them and walk away untouched. By the time I pulled into our driveway, I knew I would never sit quietly at that table again, not ever. That night, after Lily and Noah were asleep, I sat in my office with the desk lamp on. The house was quiet except for the heater clicking through the walls. I opened the company reports I had been avoiding for weeks. Payments, bills, loans, construction costs, cash flow. The numbers told a story Ryan would never tell at dinner. 3 years earlier, his company had been close to collapse after one reckless development went bad. He needed about $5 million fast, not to grow, but to survive. I had the money. I had started investing at 21 with an inheritance from my grandmother. No miracle, no lottery ticket, just years of saving, reading financial statements, reinvesting gains, and living below what I could afford. By the time Ryan needed help, my portfolio had grown past $10 million, so I invested through a holding company. In exchange, I received 60% ownership, 60% of the voting power, and the right to appoint most of the board if Ryan broke the financial limits in our agreement. He had signed every page with his own lawyer beside him. He just never knew the investor was me. I had kept my identity private because I wanted him to succeed without feeling controlled by his little sister. That night, looking at Lily's school folder on the kitchen counter, I realized how much that mercy had cost. Monday morning, her teacher called before 8. "Lily won't present today," Megan said. "She says people will think her family is embarrassing." I closed my eyes. When I asked Lily about it, she stared at her cereal and whispered, "What if everyone finds out you're a failure?" I wanted to call Ryan right then. I didn't. 10 minutes later, Daniel called. His voice was low and tight. "Ryan is trying to move forward with 3 new projects. With financing, nothing binding, just promises." I pulled a legal pad toward me. "How much is due?" "About $7 million over the next 2 months. Payroll, contractors, loans. If he signs those deals, we may not make it." "Did he cross the approval limits?" "Yes, more than once." That changed everything. This was no longer only about what Ryan had said to my children. It was about employees who had mortgages, crews waiting on payments, and families depending on checks Ryan was gambling with. I called Rebecca, the attorney who had structured my investment. She reviewed the shareholder agreement and confirmed I could call an emergency meeting with 48 hours' notice because the company faced a serious financial breach. We scheduled it for Thursday. Then I gave Daniel one instruction. "Call Ryan. Tell him the majority shareholder wants an emergency meeting." "What are you planning?" "Not revenge," I said. "Accountability." I spent the next 2 days building a rescue plan, stop the unsigned project, sell one non-essential asset, renegotiate part of the debt, and provide up to $4 million as a secured shareholder loan. But only if the board changed who controlled the money. Ryan walked into that week believing another faceless investor would save him. This time, the money had a face. Thursday afternoon. I walked into the downtown office alone. The vent hummed overhead, and the glass walls reflected every nervous movement inside. Lily and Noah were still at school. I would not drag my children into a business meeting just to make a point. Ryan was already in the conference room, tapping one polished shoe against the carpet and checking his watch. Daniel sat beside him. Rebecca stood near the screen with a folder. When Ryan saw me, irritation became a smirk. "What are you doing here?" I closed the door. He glanced at Daniel. "This is a shareholder meeting, not family therapy." "I know." "Then leave." I took the chair at the head of the table. Ryan laughed. "Zoe, move." Rebecca opened the folder. "Ms. Bennett is here as the sole owner of the entity holding 60% of this company's shares and voting rights." The room went still. Ryan looked at Rebecca, then at me. "No." She slid the ownership documents across the table. He grabbed the first page and read, $5 million, voting provisions, board appointment rights, financial limits. Then he reached the signature page. His signature, his lawyer's signature, the date from 3 years earlier. The color drained from his face. "This is a setup. It was a rescue," I said. He looked at Daniel. "You knew?" Daniel nodded, since the original review. Ryan pushed back from the table. "You let me think this was an outside investment firm. The investor's identity was confidential," Rebecca said. "The ownership terms were not." Ryan turned on me. "You planned this. I planned to save your company. You hid behind paperwork. I protected your pride." His jaw tightened. "For 3 years. I let you run this place without knowing your little sister was the reason it survived. I wanted you to succeed without feeling watched. Then you told my daughter I would never amount to anything." His eyes shifted. Then Daniel turned on the screen. $7 million in obligations over 2 months. Payroll, contractors, loan payments. 3 new projects without binding financing. Ryan pointed at the numbers. "I have investors interested. Show me the signed commitments." He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Daniel answered. "There are none." Ryan stood. "You cannot take over my company because you are angry about dinner. I am not taking your company." Rebecca spoke calmly. "After a material financial breach, the majority owner may replace board representatives. The board may then vote on executive leadership." I placed my proposal on the table. 1 unsigned project stops today. 1 non-essential asset gets sold. We renegotiate part of the debt. I will provide up to $4 million as a secured shareholder loan, released in stages. Ryan laughed bitterly. "And what do you get control over where the money goes?" The board vote took less than 10 minutes. Daniel became interim chief executive. I became board chair. Ryan kept his 25% ownership, his salary, and his role leading development. But every major project now required board approval. He slammed both hands on the table. "You stole this from me." "No, you sold 60% when you needed saving. Then you broke the limits you agreed to. You are humiliating me. I am stopping you from gambling with other people's paychecks." His anger remained, but fear finally appeared beneath it. He looked around the room, waiting for someone to rescue him. Nobody did. For once, his confidence had nowhere to hide. I stood. "I am not taking away your talent. Ryan, I am taking away your ability to risk everyone else's future without consequences." He snatched his jacket. "This family will never forgive you." I held his stare. "Then they can explain why protecting you mattered more than protecting my children." The door slammed behind him, but the real confrontation was still ahead. It would happen at the same table where everything began. The next Sunday, Ryan arrived before anyone else. When I walked into my parents' dining room with Lily and Noah, he was already seated beside Dad. Mom stood near the oven, twisting a dish towel in both hands. Ryan looked up. "There she is," he said. "The woman who stole my company." Lily stopped beside me and closed her fingers around mine. I did not raise my voice. "You still own 25%. You still have a salary. You still lead development. What you lost was the right to ignore every financial limit you signed." Mom stepped between us. "Zoe, please, can't you apologize and let this family move forward?" "For what? Stopping him before employees missed paychecks for doing this behind his back." He signed the agreement with his own lawyer. Dad turned to Ryan. "Is that true?" Ryan stared at his plate. "Did you sell 60%? "Yes," Ryan muttered. "And did you break the limits?" His jaw tightened. I was trying to grow the business. That is not what he asked, I said. Ryan looked at me with hatred, but he could not say no. The room changed. My parents were not looking at me like the difficult child. They were looking at Ryan like a man who had run out of excuses. I rested both hands on the back of a chair. I will not bring Lily and Noah back here if they have to watch everyone protect the person who hurt them. Family peace is not peace when one person is ordered to stay quiet. Mom's face crumpled. I did not enjoy that, but I did not take it back. Over the next 3 months, the company changed. One risky project was canceled. A non-essential property was sold. Part of the debt was renegotiated. My shareholder loan was released in stages, with every dollar tracked. Payroll cleared on time. Contractors received overdue payments. 2 solid projects moved forward. No mass layoffs happened. Ryan fought every new rule. He complained about approvals. He challenged Daniel in meetings. He insisted the old system had worked. But the numbers kept proving him wrong. By the end of the 3rd month, cash flow had stabilized. That was when Ryan asked to meet. We chose a coffee shop across town. He looked tired when he arrived. No expensive watch, no performance. "I'm sorry," he said. I waited. He looked annoyed by my silence. For what I asked. His eyes dropped to the table. For what I said at dinner. That is part of it. He took a slow breath. "I put you down because I needed to be the successful one. I hurt your kids, and I could have cost people their jobs." It was the first honest thing I had heard from him in years. I told him trust would require more than one apology. He had to apologize to Lily and Noah. He could never use money, marriage, or status to belittle me again. And if he wanted a relationship with me, he had to get help for his need to control every room he entered. 6 months after that dinner, Ryan returned to my parents' table. He gave Lily a book about women in business. Then he looked at both my children. "I was wrong about your mom," he said. "She saved my company. Twice." Lily studied him. "Do you still think she's a failure?" Ryan swallowed. "No. I called her that because I was scared I might be one. No one rushed to comfort him. No one asked me to make it easier. For the first time. Silence at that table belonged to the truth. That night, Lily sat beside me at our kitchen table, studying the investment account we had opened together. Noah built a crooked tower, knocking it down and laughing. Nothing about our house had changed. The paint still chipped. My car still rattled when the heater turned on. I still packed lunches before sunrise and answered emails after bedtime. But the silence inside me was gone. For years, I thought keeping the peace meant swallowing every insult. I thought being calm made me strong. What I learned was this silence can protect a family, but it can also protect the person hurting it. Lily looked up from the numbers. "Can I be successful without making people feel small?" I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. That's the only kind of success worth having. Ryan did not become a different man overnight. My parents did not erase years of favoritism with one apology. Trust returned slowly, in pieces, and that was enough, because my real victory was never the company, the money, or the boardroom. It was watching my daughter learn that no one else gets to decide her worth. If this story hit home, share your experience below, like the video, and subscribe for more true family drama stories.